Meanwhile, as Nigeria battles perennial shortage in electricity supply, bringing millions of its consumers under a more accountable, transparent metering system has remained even a more difficult task over the years. The government and the power distribution companies have also continued to complain of revenue shortfalls in the sector. As at September 2023, Nigeria's metering gap stood at over 7 million, though reports suggest it could be more than that. This is amid frequent grid collapse, which as at today seems to have defied solutions. According to the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission, out of over 12 million registered electricity customers, only 5,707,838 have meters, indicating that over 7.1 million registered customers still are subjected to the estimated billing system.
As well, the governor of Central Bank of Nigeria, Olayemi Cardoso, yesterday said that the growing number of Nigerian students studying abroad, growing medical tourism as well as food imports have led to the depreciation of the naira against the dollar. It disclosed that over the past decade, foreign exchange demand for education and healthcare totaled nearly $40 billion, surpassing the total current foreign exchange reserves of the CBN. Cardoso, during his presentation at the sectorial debate organized by the House of Representatives, further disclosed that personal travel allowances have accounted for a total of $58.7 billion during the same period.
Given this data, it is crucial to highlight that between 2010 and 2020, foreign education expenses amounted to a substantial $28.65 billion, as per the CBN's publicly available balance of payments statistics. Similarly, medical treatment abroad has incurred around $11 billion in costs during the same period. Consequently, over the past decade, foreign exchange demand for education and healthcare has totaled nearly $40 billion. Notably, this amount surpasses the total current foreign exchange reserves of the CBN. On the supply side of the exchange rate, to bolster the inflow of US dollars into a country, the economy must earn these dollars through exports, whether oil or non-oil, or by attracting foreign investments. A robust economic foundation is essential to produce goods and services that the global market is willing to pay for in US dollars. When the supply surpasses demand, the exchange rate appreciates, causing the price of the dollar to fall. Unfortunately, in Nigeria, the contrary has taken place.
Arise business anchor Boason Omofaye joins us for more on these stories. Boason, thank you so much for joining us on Newsday.
Good afternoon to you both.
Good afternoon.
Thank
now,
you.
The federal government of Nigeria and, of course, Angola in partnership to enhance water supply and power generation within borders. How well do you think this collaboration will work, especially in enhancing electricity in both countries?
Well, Nigeria and Angola do share a few affinities. We're both the two largest oil-producing countries on the continent within the OPEC, as well as the African Petroleum Producers Organization. We share some form of other relationships, bilaterally speaking. But again, what is Angola looking for? Angola is looking for power, they're looking for water supply between both countries. How quickly can we get our economic diplomacy together and our foreign economic diplomacy together and use it to leverage our position as the biggest market and the biggest economy on the African continent? It remains to be seen. We're still grappling with the basics within the country. So right now, we don't have that very strong and focused and what you can say nuanced global economic policy framework in which we're going into countries and we're leading by what we want to put on the table as the senior partner on the table. We don't have that yet. We need to have that, and I haven't seen anyone leading that. So we're still dealing with a lot of petty issues locally that's taking away from the role that we should be playing within Africa, within the new intra-Africa trade, within the economic space, and harnessing every resources of our neighbors for our own advantage and the advantage of everyone else. So when you see countries like Angola coming to Nigeria and say, oh, we want to partner on power, water supply, again, the question is that shouldn't we have been the one? Say, look, what are you folks doing over there? Yeah, we are the big brother, here we go. And then we're leading by example. So we have 30, 40 odd dams in Nigeria. We don't have power by hydro. We're still talking about estimated billion. We don't have enough power via solar. We have at least 4 main sources of energy. We've got gas, we've got hydro, then we've got solar, natural resource, then of course whatever comes from agriculture and whatever biofuel and all of that. So we have at least 4 basics. We don't have wind. So how do we have these 3 to 4 basic resources, yet we're not able to tap each of these and bring in investors to each of these sectors? Let the folks in the Middle East focus on our solar power sector, energy sector, okay? They use more of solar. Yeah. Talk to Georgia in Eastern Europe and a few others, and then you can talk about hydro, okay? Power. Then talk to the friends in Britain and the US, and they'll give you energy via gas. We haven't been able to use the Ministry of Energy, Ministry of Power, whatever his name is called, to drive that. Go talk to the folks in Mexico, for example. Mexico has about 7 different agencies that are responsible for power. And they're using these different agencies, and I'm speaking as far back as 2011 that I was there, to bring energy to the table. Because they also have diverse sources of energy. Mexico is about 3/3 of Nigeria's population. So they also have very huge population in the manner of speaking. They have diverse sources of energy. And they're bringing all the energies to the table, using different energies to bring in investment and also to ensure that you don't have a single grid in the manner of speaking, so that whatever you're producing in the northern part of the country, as far as solar is concerned, go to a separate grid. Whatever you're producing from the southern part, which is through gas, go to a separate grid. Whatever you're doing around hydro, Shiroro, whatever other dams, go to the hydro grid, so that you can know what part of this will be able to use for heavy industrial machinery, those that are going to use for trade and cottage industries, and the ones that you're going to use for other forms of industrial energy use. All of this are what we have, but that roadmap that separate, then bring everything together at the same time at the bottom end, or it hasn't really been figured out. So maybe this deal with Angola, or this relationship with Angola, will bring something to the table. But let's see how it goes beyond the official an envoy from Angola visit the Minister of Power, and then everybody has some nice tea and coffee, and everybody go home, then it's all back to business as usual. We need to go beyond that, and I'm looking to see that happen beyond the usual press statements, press statements about this and this. We are working towards whatever. We need to have a whole lot. This will be a national emergency as far as power is concerned.
Indeed, and it's so unfortunate. What people talk about is that, look, we have the abundance of resources here, but you're just not optimizing them. Having the infrastructure to put them in. Even wind energy will be used in the north extensively, especially to power small villages. But it's just not been
it's just not been exploited. But I think we have the Minister of, I think we need to have more than one single ministry or whatever of energy. I think Nigeria is far more diverse. That perhaps we need to have a separate agency or whatever ministry to handle solar. Because if you look at solar, you're talking about 7, 8, 9, 10 states across the northern part of the country. When you talk about gas, you're talking about another 6, 7, 8, 10, 11 or 12 states in the southern part. With hydro, water crosses across Kwara, Lokoja, Niger states, Benue State, and a few others. So as far as hydro is concerned, you also have a bunch of that. If you're looking at investors, they need to know who they are going to and who they are talking to when it comes to investment. Right now, they're not too sure. So we need to rethink. The president, Mr. President, need to. The recent Mr. President saying he's opening up ability of states and signing that off to generate and distribute looks like a step in the right direction. But at the federal level, we need to unbundle all the energy resources, in the manner of speaking, and then begin to see how each of them can bring investment and result to the table.
All right, let's talk about this 7 million metering gap. One would have thought by now that if not a large percentage of these meters are actually being produced here. So what's the issue?
I wish I know, but I hope you have. I hope you got meters, because as of September last year, a single-phase meter was to be around 81,000 or so. Wow. But that was before they all let loose on exchange rates. I'm sure by now, if the NERC sits on the table and take a very critical look based on exchange rate, a single-phase meter by now should be around 90,000 or 100,000 for a single phase. You give that to an average shop owner, an average barber shop, an average hairstyler, or an average mechanic or whatever, he's not going to pay 100,000 or so for a single phase. Again, how do you ensure that there's electricity or power on that single phase? Yeah. So he's going to need 2 or 3 phases. So where will he get hundreds of thousands to just obtain the meter? Then we now move to the second level of crazy estimated billing, and every other associated problems. So we need to fix this issue wholeheartedly. I'm not too sure we can close 7 million metering gap this year. I dare anyone that we can make. How long did it take us to do 5 million? And we want to do 7 million in 1 year. It's not going to happen. The new presidential committee, or the presidential committee on power, on metering, haven't really brought any solutions concrete to the table. So the government is still doing a whole lot of subsidy, as it were, in the power sector. Can we continue that? No, we cannot continue. We need to allow the private sector come in. But this is the downstream part of the energy sector. This is the downstream part sector of that sector. And every investor anywhere in the world that's coming, even local investors that want to come into the power sector, will want to see where does the money come from the man on the street and the end users. Right. That is what will provide incentive to invest in either producing the meters locally or producing it abroad, or bringing them in. Now we're caught in the middle, or the crossfire right now. If you want to produce locally now, exchange rates will make it nearly impossible for you to do so. Then you have, where is the dollar to import the meters? The central bank does not have the money. The federal government does not have the money. So we're going borrowing with the World Bank 1.5 billion. How much of that are we going to give to subsidize imported meters and distribute to ordinary Nigerians? Even if we bring it in, will you be able to give it to folks at 100,000? Where would they find 100,000? Folks are already protesting the price of rice, gari, beans, tomato, onion, chicken, turkey, whatever, on the streets already across some towns in the country. And so we're doing national food emergency. Right now, I'm not too sure metering is going to be Mr. President's or anyone's top list, a priority. I think so. Because right now it's food first. You need food goes first. Whether the food is, whether the pepper is, you use a hand to grind it the old-fashioned way, or you ask your neighbor to help you, whatever it is, food has to come in first. So metering is going to be number 2, number 3, or whatever. You need to deal with insecurity. So these problems keep piling up. So just to summarize it, the problems are piling up, and we need to find a very careful way of decelerating or deleveraging these problems very quickly before they swamp us. And we're beginning to look as if we're being swamped in a manner of speaking. And we shouldn't allow that. We should stay one step ahead of the game or of the problems. Once they become multifarious and multifaceted, it becomes a whole lot more difficult to deal with. And that's why I hope the government and those who are in charge realizes that right now people are hurting seriously, and food is becoming number 1. But a part of that food is that you also need energy, because you need to store the food. True. In the manner of speaking. Whether those who are doing wholesale or lower level of it, they need to store it. So that will also mean that at what price would you and I be buying it if they don't have the right meter? If I'm giving estimated billing or whatsoever, then I'm going to pass the cost to you or your lower and top way, by the way, I hope I have. Whether it's a poultry, cold room, or whatever it is, I have to pass the cost on to over to someone. So food and energy, they are like Siamese twins. So we need to quickly find a way round how to resolve the two as quickly as possible.
Oh, amen to finding a way very soon. Now, Mr. Boason, the governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Yemi Cardoso, says the growing number of Nigerian students studying abroad plus growing medical tourism led to the depreciation of the naira against the dollar. What's your take on this?
My take is that it's been very honest. If you roll it back and back and back, look, the destruction of the naira did not start today. It was all, the road to hell. Look, we all came through this. If you add the $40 billion to the $58 billion for travel allowances of BTAs and PTAs, you're talking about $98 billion, roughly $100 billion. We don't even have. We have just maybe 1/3 of that or 1/4 of that in our reserves. But we just blow that money to our friends in the UK, Germany, Switzerland, France, South Africa, and elsewhere. So it's the doll's bad news, as the title of that James Hadley Chase novel goes. It's the doll's bad news. It's the bad news. But how are we going to move back from where we were to where we need to be is everyone's question. We send these kids abroad, we need to pay for them. And we need to take care of these kids. We need to take care of the kids of those who cannot go abroad as well to study. So whether we like it or not, we've got to deal with the education system, both home and those that we have abroad. So we need to find the dollar to keep them there and find the naira to make sure that we have good schools and others for children of the poor and those who are of less income in Nigeria. So it's a twin problem, headed problem right now. But the earlier we decelerate from sending more dollars and pound sterling and Swiss franc, whatever abroad, the better for us, so that we can begin to do what you call charity begins at home. The key problem, the bottom line of everything we're talking about is that our charity doesn't seem to begin from home. As soon as we get money in our pocket, we just believe that, look, let's just move everything abroad. Oh, why would we need to stay here? So as I put it, look, money isn't everything, and everything isn't money.
Indeed. Boason Omofaye, I'd like to thank you very much for your thoughts on this business story. It's good to have you with us as always.
Thank you very much.